For those of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I'm Allison Cutler, Chief of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. I'm delighted you could all join us today. We are very pleased to be able to introduce the Open Internet Consumer Broadband labels. A lot of hard work went into creating these labels, and I'm confident they will benefit both consumers and our industry friends. We are here to elaborate on the collaborative process that led us to today and to talk about what more transparency will mean for consumers. First up is Debbie Berlin, Chair of the FCC's Consumer Advisory Committee. Debbie is going to walk us through the CAC's process for creating the labels. Then the main event. Chairman Wheeler will unveil the labels and speak to us about their role in promoting transparency and competition. Finally, Director Cordray from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will say a few words. CFPB, which in the few years since its inception has proven to be a driving force for consumer empowerment and lent us their expertise to make the labels look fantastic. Thank you all again for being here this morning. I will turn the podium over to Debbie.
Thank you, Allison. The FCC's Open Internet Order included a direct instruction to the Consumer Advisory Committee to formulate a disclosure format based on input from a broad range of industry and public interest stakeholders to then submit to the FCC. This disclosure format would provide important information to help consumers more clearly understand their broadband marketplace choices. Immediately after the rechartered and newly appointed CAC was established last spring, and even before our first official meeting, I appointed a task force comprised of CAC members representing consumer groups and industry to accomplish this important assignment. And I'm pleased to see so many members of this task force this morning. We often met weekly, working toward a final product. It was a collaborative and cooperative process. Discussions and deliberations of the task force were open to all members of the Consumer Advisory Committee. When the task force presented the finished product to the full CAC for a final vote, it was passed unanimously, and this was a significant accomplishment. The end result of the task force and the CAC's work is the basis for the broadband consumer disclosures that are before you today. The disclosures released today are far easier on the eyes thanks to the FCC's partnership with the CFPB and their work. I want to thank the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau for its support of the CAC throughout this effort and the many other FCC offices that were so helpful during this process, and for the CFPB for their previously mentioned assistance. And now for the individual who really made this all possible for consumers and who needs no introduction, Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Debbie, and thank you to you and the Consumer Advisory Committee, which we affectionately refer to as CAC, for all of your work on this. I mean, this is industry and advocates coming together unanimously. Now, you didn't know this, but as you were up here delivering those remarks and you talked about the unanimous approval, Director Cordray leans over to me and says, "That's a big deal." And it is. And so thank you for your leadership, and to all of those of you who are on the CAC for what you've done. And Allison, of course, thank you to you for the great job you're doing leading the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau and driving these things to the finish line. You know, if you're going to get competition, you need information. And that's what we're talking about here today. The more consumers know, the better the opportunity for competition. And that we can achieve that kind of transparency without intrusive regulation is also an important step forward, an important signal. And that's why the work that Debbie and her committee did to come up with a unanimous conclusion is so important. So let's talk about this for a moment, and let's talk about the regulation that brought us to this point. The Open Internet Order requires that ISPs disclose critical facts to consumers. But the question is how? We've all experienced the kind of confusion that can result when you look at this eye chart and you try and compare it with that eye chart, and you kind of get lost in terms of, yes, the information's there, but how do I make sense out of it? What we are unveiling today is a simplified approach to the presentation of the core information that consumers need to make an informed purchase decision. We relied heavily on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as we developed this because of their expertise helping explain in similar kinds of boxes that you've seen on your credit card bills and elsewhere exactly what is going on in the financial realm, and that experience working with consumers they shared with us, and it had a significant impact on what we did. The format, when you look at it, when we finally turn these around and you look at it, you'll go, oh, I've seen that before, because it looks like a nutrition label. It looks like the kind of thing that you see on your food products. It is designed to meet the transparency requirements of the Open Internet Order and to be used at point of sale as well as online. And those who do adopt this, those companies who do adopt this, will be able to use this as a safe harbor in terms of meeting the requirements that are in the Open Internet Order. So, less talking and more showing. Let's turn these around. And we have our own Vanna Whites coming up here to do the turning. And there it is. Break, yes, a round of applause. So as you can see, and I won't go through this, I won't read it to you, but as you can see, it is very straightforward. It is very clear-cut. It is presented in a clean manner to give consumers the information they need to make informed decisions when they are buying broadband service. This is a no surprises before you buy. Or I should restate it. This is a no surprises after you buy, because you know when you buy kind of situation. You look at this and you say, oh my golly, hidden fees have no place to hide. They're all laid out there. The surprise of when you open your first bill and you say, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting, won't happen anymore because everything is laid out. And as I said, in developing this, we worked really closely with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and their expertise. And so it's my privilege to introduce the director of the CFPB, my friend and fellow Buckeye, Rich Cordray.
Thank you. I'm pleased to join the champion of the cause of transparency, join you to champion the cause of transparency, although I feel like I'm joining a champion. of the cause, which the FCC is advancing today with its proposed disclosure form for broadband consumers. Before I start, I want to be among the first to wish a happy birthday to Chairman Wheeler. I guess it occurred over the weekend. Takes us back to that happy day when he was born and grew up in Central Ohio, which helps explain, as he noted, both his practical good sense and our warm friendship. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is the first federal agency dedicated to protecting consumers in the financial marketplace. For many people, mortgages, student loans, and credit cards will be among the most significant financial transactions they will ever make. Too often, they are also the most complex and confusing. Among our goals at the Bureau is to make that process more understandable and less intimidating, as well as to protect consumers and ensure they're treated fairly. Our experience shows that clear disclosures, just as the chairman just said, laying out the terms and costs of transactions play an important part in helping consumers make more informed decisions. This is true not only for high-dollar products such as mortgages, but also for more everyday products such as broadband or mobile internet. The relevant information is usually presented in writing up front, and people should be able to understand the terms being offered before they sign on the dotted line. They should be able to compare costs and make the right choices that fit their needs. Today, the FCC has unveiled its own proposed disclosure form for broadband consumers, whether delivered over cable or the phone. I commend the FCC for this step, and we're pleased to be their close partner on this project. We actually wanted to undertake this about 5 years ago and first approached the FCC at that time, and there was interest, but it didn't happen for a lot of reasons, including the newness, I think, of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is really a credit to the FCC and to this chairman and to the team that worked on this project that it has now come to pass. Although the Consumer Bureau is still fairly new, we've already had considerable experience designing disclosures for financial products that use clear language to inform consumers. At the outset, we launched what we call our Know Before You Owe campaign. This is a phrase that the president has loved. He likes to use it. You should know before you owe. That makes a great deal of sense, which now embraces mortgages, student loans, and more. Our first challenge was to demystify the mortgage process. One consumer described it this way. The print is font size fly spec, and the language is boilerplate. I think we've seen that on many, many bills that we receive in the marketplace. The mortgage closing process was complicated for everyone involved, but most of all for home buyers. We worked to change that. The result is our Know Before You Owe mortgage disclosure forms, which took effect in October. The forms are simpler and clearer and offer apples-to-apples comparisons. That's another important point of what is being unveiled today. As the chairman mentioned, it is really important for consumers to be able to look and see what is there and to be able to figure out what they want to buy and what they are buying and not to be surprised afterwards. It's also very important that the comparisons be apples to apples, which will affect industry behavior because, as he noted, fees cannot be hidden. They can't pop up later. And it affects the way in which the industry will present fees and which fees they will, in fact, be comfortable presenting. So people tell us they can better understand the explanation of risks and costs, but they can also avoid the concern and the apprehension that there's going to be something that they don't see that's going to affect them later. The forms that we use in mortgage concentrate on the most crucial information, such as interest rate, monthly payments, total closing costs, and risky terms that could increase payments over time. We've taken a similar approach to student loans, where the growing cost of higher education has created serious financial hardship for millions of former students. For many, the complex and confusing process makes it difficult to calculate college costs, assess loan options, and figure out how much debt to take on. Our Know Before You Owe student loan project produced a one-page financial aid shopping sheet, a model disclosure form that colleges and universities can use to clarify costs and risks of student loans up front before students have enrolled. The disclosure has now been adopted by more than 3,000 institutions of higher education. It makes it easier for students and their families to compare offers side by side using the same format and standard terms. It clearly lays out options for federal aid and estimates both total student loan debt and monthly payments after graduation. And we're considering standard disclosures as well for consumers of prepaid cards and accounts to assure more transparency and facilitate comparison shopping there. As with all of these approaches, the goal is to help consumers have the information they need to make the right decisions that best fit their lives. That's why the FCC's efforts today toward delivering greater clarity are so important. Internet access is a key gateway to economic opportunity. This is the world that the FCC lives in and works on every day, and the rest of us admire that work from afar. Broadband is now found in 2 out of 3 American homes. This is a revolution in our lifetime. Signing up for this service represents a significant financial commitment. Consumers must be able to understand the terms of the agreement, and if there are options, they need to be able to make comparison shopping for the best deal. People around the country will benefit by the improvements made in the proposed disclosure form the FCC is releasing today, so we're glad the FCC is pursuing this initiative to help consumers better navigate the broadband marketplace and, I guess, know before they buy. Consumers deserve to feel confident about the information they receive, the companies they work with, and their ability to make good comparisons. These things are far more likely to happen when you know before you buy. And with its announcement today, the FCC is moving forward in this positive direction. Thank you again to Chairman Wheeler and the FCC team. We have so enjoyed working with you on this important accomplishment, and we look forward to working together on other such projects in the future. Thank you very much.
Are you going to close?
Okay. Sure. So thank you, Director Cordray, for joining us and for all your team's support. And thank you, Debbie, and the entire Consumer Advisory Committee, many of whom are here, for your work. And thanks, everyone, for coming out on a Monday morning to join us.
Great.
Now we have a picture.
All right.